I'll teach you not to move. Hello, I'm RetroJules. The title of this video is Arty is not OP. I can feel your anger mounting already. I'm probably one of the 2% of people who don't hate Arty. The question to you is, why do people hate artillery? Why do you hate artillery? Do you think it's overpowered? Do you think it's overpowered at all tiers? Do you hate artillery because you hate artillery? You hate being smacked, you hate being one-shotted, you hate being caught on fire and sent back to your garage? Do you hate artillery but you don't really hate artillery? Do you sort of love-hate artillery like it's the villain in the film and you just love to hate it? Do you play artillery and still think it's overpowered and hate it? Or do you hate artillery and you've never played it, or you don't play it, or you wouldn't play it? Or do you only hate the red squares? And do you quite appreciate the green squares? In which case, you're kind of 50-50 and, you know, it's a love-hate relationship, maybe. This is going to be a controversial topic, and I just wanted to cover it. I think everyone's going to hate me, but that's the way things are, because this is, we know we're mature, grown-up people, and we can have this discussion, and I am coming at it from the minority. So get yourself in your padded room, put on your straitjacket, have a cup of chamomile tea, calm yourself down, and let's just see how this goes. Oh my god, what have I done? So, if Arty is completely overpowered, then an everyday crap tanker like me should be able to just pick it up and smack the enemy into oblivion. Well, let's see how it goes, and let's bear in mind, I'm not an artillery player. I do love hunting red squares, and I am also playing a vehicle and a class that's in the game. I'm not doing anything I shouldn't. I haven't modded anything. I am just playing the game as wargaming intended. But I'm just doing it through a green square. I am not, let me reiterate this, I am not playing a red square. I'm on your side. I'm playing a green square. So to sort of get this off on a start, I want you to know that I don't think Arty is OP, and I like having Arty in the game. I like the personality of the class of tank. I like dreading the fact that artillery is in play. It's an aspect of the game that gives each game some variety. Yes, it's brilliant when you don't have Arty in a game and you can really enjoy that and play differently. But I also enjoy having Arty in the game because it's just that extra aspect to think about. So here's the disclaimer. This is a tier 6 Arty and it's got no crew skills. I don't even know if they're fully trained, but this is what I had at the time, and this is me starting to grind artillery, because I thought if we're going to have a discussion about a very sensitive subject, which is artillery in the game, then I need to have a few games in it and understand it. And you might come from the aspect where you say, well, actually, Retro, it's actually the really high-tiered artilleries that are overpowered. But surely all the tanks, all the classes of tank, move along at a similar increasing rate of power throughout the game anyway. So surely there's that balance all the way through. Now, I'm one tier down, I've got a city map, and I can't get a shot in anywhere. Great. I'm going to relocate. No use to my team there. I can't hit a single thing that they've highlighted. And I'm completely at the mercy of my team. I can't spot for myself. I'm 100% reliant on the team spotting the enemy. And I'm just sniffing around to see if I can... This is one of the things I started doing at the beginning of the game, would be to try and just see if I could see where Arty was. Coming from the light tank player perspective, you kind of roughly know where artillery may be lurking, and just seeing if I can see a shot fired and take a blind shot. Ooh. Is this worth a shotgun? Ah, missed. Bugger. Right, move on. And at this stage, I don't even think the tank is fully unlocked. The packages on this tank are rubbish. They hardly improve anything. They're a waste of silver, and they're a waste of XP, really. I did unlock them later on because the tank does move a little bit quicker, which is quite handy at the beginning of the game for getting where you want to be. So... Gonna move out in the open. And... Oh! There's Arty! Can we shotgun Arty? Well, I've not played artillery for many a year. And that was my first experience. And it was terrible. Look at the zeros. Sorry team, I was completely useless in that game. I'll get my coat.
Throwing up the camo net.
So I also decided that if I'm going to grind a little bit of artillery, I wasn't that keen on the Russian Arty, so I thought I'll grind the British artillery as well. And when I say grinding artillery, I'm playing artillery to just sort of try and understand it and get to grips with it. I do not know that I will make it all the way to tier 10, because playing artillery is difficult. Playing artillery is incredibly frustrating. And I got the bishop. Always makes me think of aliens when I think of bishop. And it doesn't even cover the whole map. In fact, it barely covers half the map with its shell range. So that means that I've got to get halfway across the map to try and cover their base if they need to. It means I've got to get really, really close. This tank is huge. How am I going to do that and not get spotted? So, to those of you who might say, Retro, it's the really high tiered tanks that are really OP. Yeah, but I got to get there. And if the grind is that painful, then surely at the end of that grind, the ultimate goal of tier 10 maybe, then that tank should be the real prize. And if it does give them such a wallop it sends them into next week, have I not earned that right by grinding crap like this? Who knows? So, If you're ever a light tank out there scouting and you're thinking, why isn't artillery raining shots down? It's because I'm not even in position yet. And when I do get in position, in this tank, I haven't even got the range. I decided in this game that I'm just going to kind of stay with the numbers, because if I try and get remotely close enough to the enemy to fire upon them, I'm feeling that I'm in the middle of the map and very visible. So I thought, if I just get together with my team, I'm not the only target. That being said, what do you do when you see a red square? Oh, all your focus goes on to the red square. But that was my theory in this game. Safety in numbers. Right. Let's see how much range I've got now. Let's see if... No. No. Well, what can I hit? This is ridiculous. How does this teach you how to play artillery? The idea of artillery is you sit at the back of the map, 100% reliant on your team to highlight the enemy and rain shots in. I can't do that in this. I mean, great. Here we go. Oh, and there's a nice aiming reticle. That is a fast aim, and that is an accurate aim. Not a massive amount of damage, but I quite like that aspect, but I've got to get damn close. And this feels quite uncomfortable to me. If a light tank was to come whipping through the middle, I would be so visible. Right, hopefully this is one of the bushes that do work in the game. Right, can I get these guys? No, I am still well out of range. Right, here we go. I mean, look at that. It's almost a range of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 squares on the map. That's ridiculous. I have a feeling this particular tank is not going to be fun to grind. If I've got to get that close to the enemy, I am going to die a lot before I can do anything. However, my understanding of British artillery is that it has a higher parabolic arch of travel for the shell. So you have the ability to hit tanks when they're behind buildings and behind rocks, more so than the shallow arch of the American artillery. But of course the American artillery has a huge splash range eventually, whereas the British artillery doesn't have that splash range, is my understanding. And I also believe that British artillery isn't quite as accurate. I don't know, I haven't really looked into all the stats. I've done a little bit of YouTubing and just got a sort of general gist of things. So I'm going to move. I mean, how close am I going to have to move to try and be a benefit to my team? All the enemy are up on the hill. I have done 1 tank kill and I've done 80 damage. That is not going to get me a lot of XP. Hurrah, we're in range. Shot in, 121. I mean, that is a lovely, really small reticle, and it does aim in quickly, but obviously we're just chipping away at the enemy at this stage. Oh, a little bit of tracking assist as well, and the tank is taken out. And Retro, do you find that you sort of tend to be aiming for the very slow, heavy tanks and artillery? Absolutely, I do. And, well, Retro, would that then stop you playing really slow, sluggish tanks like a mouse or a 60 TP? Sadly, absolutely. But the thing is, it doesn't bother me that much, because if I roll out a 60p and I get smacked into oblivion by artillery, I'll just go, oh well, Arty got me. Roll out another tank. It's not the only tank that I own. It's not a big deal. Yes, it's frustrating, but it's not a big deal. However, if Arty wasn't in the game, there'd probably be a really annoying little light tank that will come up behind me and do the circle of death anyway. So if you're in a slow, heavily armoured tank, something's going to take you out. So I can't just blame artillery for that. Or can we? Tank destroyer. Left. Can I... Where it... Oh, you're kidding. Even that is out of range. Well, that was another really frustrating game. But I got a bit of damage done. And I got a tank kill. So how did we do overall with that victory? And stayed alive? Overall, with a ×3 multiplier, not too bad, but oh, that's gonna be hard work.
Loaded and ready. Let her rip. Focus on this location. Clear and gun. Good night, Irene.
So, have I convinced you yet that artillery isn't overpowered? That it's really frustrating and difficult to play? What do you mean, no? Well, come on, Retro, you've just shown us some mid-tier, unskilled artillery tanking with crews that haven't got any skills, and, well, kind of the tanker behind them hasn't got that many skills either. And do you know what? I completely agree. But, if artillery was OP, would it not make it easier for me to just smack the enemy into oblivion? I haven't been able to achieve that. So this is where I'm going to try and sell it to you and say, this is why I don't think artillery is overpowered. And I'm still going to stand by this, why I still think it's one of the harder classes to play in World of Tanks. And actually, I'm going to go one step further, and for me personally, I think it's the hardest class of tank to play in World of Tanks. Artillery is a circumstantial tank. The circumstances for it to work properly really have to be just right. I.e., no city mats, no mountains, nothing that sticks up and gets in the way of your reticle and blocks the shot. You've got long aim times. If I take this tank to tier 10, it's got an aim time of 8 seconds. In 8 seconds, a tank can move a lot. And that's an 8-second aim time if the tank stays exactly where it is. If I've got to keep moving and jostling around, I'm going to have to keep re-aiming. It's got an accuracy of 0.92 at tier 10. It is not going to be accurate, but then I'm going to have some splash damage. And it's going to have an almighty reload of 46 seconds. That is huge. And if you're tracking your enemy and you've got to move the chassis, then your reticle disperses completely and you're going to have that 8-second re-aim time again. I'm 100% reliant on my team for spotting the enemy. I can't directly influence the game. I can't look at the map and go, oh, do you know what? I need to go to that flank now and help them, or I need to go and snipe from them. I can't do that. All I can do is support my team where they are and where they're spotting the enemy. I can't go out spotting. I can't go out and get spotting assisted damage. The damage I do is my own. I will get some tracking assist if I manage to track the vehicles and they're then fired upon afterwards. And then leading your shots. you know, we've all been hit by artillery on the move, and you have to give kudos and a thumbs up to an artillery player that hits you on the move. So you've got to lead your shots. But the trouble with artillery is you've got this arc of trajectory. And the further at the back of the map you're aiming, the longer the shell takes to travel. So you have to allow for that if you're going to lead the shot and try and catch a tank on the move, and perhaps do a blind shot if you like. So at the back of the map, that shot is going to take longer to travel. At the middle of the map, it's going to take slightly less. And at the front of the map, i.e. closer to you, it's going to travel quite quickly. So when you're leading your shot, you've really got to think about where that tank is on the map in relationship to you, and how long your shell's going to take to get there. And I know we all play sort of mediums, heavies, lights, and you lead your shot, but it's nothing in comparison to leading your shot with artillery because of the time the shell is in the air. And of course, enemy tanks, they keep moving. They don't sit still for long. They move around constantly, and you don't realise how much tanks move until you're looking down on them and you're just there going, just sit still and let me hit you, please, so I can do some damage in the game and get some XP and progress my square, please. It's a completely different experience playing artillery, and there are two reasons why I've done it. One is because there is a lot of artillery hate out there, and I don't know if it's just fashionable to hate artillery or whether it's, you know, each person's personal experience of artillery. It's difficult to tell. And then, you know, do they hate the player that's playing artillery as well, which of course really, you know, isn't on, because we all play different tanks. That person playing artillery doesn't just play artillery, but of course some people are allowed to have expertise in playing artillery and making that their thing. The second reason I thought I'd have a go at artillery, apart from just wanting to make this video as well, was that, in all honesty, I am struggling with map boredom quite a lot. That's one of the reasons I play a lot less these days, and I enjoy the game more when I do play, but I play less because it's just, oh, it's that map, oh, it's that map, oh, I'll go east, I'll go west, I'll go wherever. And actually playing artillery, because you're looking down on the map, apart from getting a damn city map, it actually doesn't matter too much about the map, because really you're really focusing on the highlighted tanks that your team highlights. And it's actually quite a chilled experience. I quite like, even though it's incredibly frustrating, I quite like the laid back style of playing artillery. I just fancied a change. And that's something everybody has got the right to do. There are 5 tank classes in World of Tanks, and they all play differently. And within those tank classes, there are tanks that play differently. And that's the variety of the game. And I don't know that if it is fair to hate players that play certain types of tank. I've quite enjoyed my artillery experience. It's very different. Whether I'm going to stick with it to tier 10, I don't know. They don't make the most interesting videos to watch, and I've always got to sort of bear that in mind when I'm tanking, that actually the end product for me generally is so I can make a video to entertain you. And I'm hoping that these artillery videos haven't been boring for you, and I'm hoping that it's going to spark some really mature conversations. And don't worry, I am not going to be dishing out loads and loads of artillery videos, because they are generally a little bit dull to watch. Well, I died in this game, but I managed to get some tracking assist of 1,600, and I managed to get a tank kill, and did my own damage of just over 1,300. Just wanted to watch this game pan out. There's the victory. We capped out. And how did we do overall in what's going to be the last artillery game? Well, did a decent 1,600 damage, same and assisted, second class mastery. How do we do overall? Oh, we came second. Maybe I'm getting the hang of this.
Ready to fire. Let her rip.
Well, that's it. There is not one person who plays this game that hasn't been shotgunned by artillery. There is not one person in this game that hasn't been picked on by artillery. And your very thought is, why me? Why are you not aiming at any other tank? It can be really frustrating to be on the end of artillery. But the point I was sort of trying to make in this video is I think that Arty has to work damn hard to get the shots in the first place. So this is my point of view. So this is me saying artillery's been in the game since it started. Artillery is not going to disappear. Artillery hate is rife, and as is some light tank hate, actually, especially with regards to the Vanguard. But I like having artillery in the game, and I think it belongs. Sometimes I'm very grateful for artillery being on my side. Sometimes I hate artillery because it smacked me one and I was having quite a good game. I do understand that. I love to love artillery. I also love to hate artillery, and that's my opinion. But of course, you've got your opinion, and I don't doubt for a minute that I haven't changed your mind. And that is absolutely fine, as long as you're respectful to the players and the people that want to play the tanks that are in the game. And if you've got a real beef about artillery, really, your vengeance and your hatred should be pointed and directed towards wargaming, and not the people that are just using the tools in the game to play the game. But if I haven't convinced you and you're sat there now absolutely seething, then get on the comments down below and be constructive and be respectful, and I would love to know why I haven't convinced you that artillery is difficult to play. I'd love to know your experiences, and imagine you're making a video for me to really negate this video, and in your points, I would just like to know what your points are as to why and how you think artillery is OP, shouldn't be in the game, and if you're going to make a really strong case, artillery is not going to be taken out of the game ever. So what would you do to perhaps change artillery to a way that you would then think that, do you know what, if they do that to artillery, then I would still be happy for it to be in the game. A point I would like to make, however, is that I do not think that it is fair that any tank can really one-shot a tank and take it out of the game instantly. And I was going to compare the hatred for artillery and compare it to the Death Star, because that has the ability to one-shot you. But of course, that has recently been nerfed, and it's quite possibly lost its ability to do that. And I do believe that artillery should be brought into balance with that and shouldn't have the ability to one-shot tanks with an awful lot of health. However, I do think that wargaming have come at this from the wrong angle, because if a tank can one-shot you, that's part of its personality. The personality of artillery is fear. It can smack you and take you out of the game. The Death Star. You feared the Death Star. If its cannon was pointing towards you, you knew for a split second you might be out of the game very, very quickly. And also, the Waffle had the ability, with its clip, to take you out of the game too. Even though it's really frustrating to get one-shotted, I'm kind of on the fence with this. It's not fair, but that was the personality of those tanks. And actually, I quite liked that, because there was the real fear factor. And there was the real reward for the people playing those huge, great tank destroyers that are very hard to hide. And to quote Wargaming, we see that players of all skill levels are attracted to this tank, use it frequently, and are willing to send expensive shells downrange to help propel their team to victory. I'm going to say that bit again. Willing to send expensive shells downrange. I.e., they're happy to pay to win. They're happy to pay and load up gold. And Wargaming have come at this, I think, from the wrong angle. They shouldn't be nerfing the tank. They should be restricting the amount of gold rounds that tanks can carry. It should be like a percentage, maybe. There are so many people out there who are spamming gold, loading up gold completely because they can afford to do so, which I don't think is necessarily fair against tankers who can't afford to do so. And I do believe that gold ammunition should be in the game. If you're a couple of tiers down and you can't penetrate, then it gives you that little bit of assistance to balance the tiering. But I think that the approach, from my personal point of view, should be that the gold loadout on any tank should be a percentage of what it carries. For example, 10%. Each tank or each class can have a different percentage, but the Death Star, for example, could carry 10% of its rounds in gold, and that would be the limit. And then that would give that tank the ability to still do what it did, and the fear would still be there, but it could only do it so many times in the game, and people would have to think about how they used their gold ammunition to the best effect in the game. I know this is a contentious conversation to have, and I did think twice about making this video, but it's all about respect, and we can have these conversations. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed the points that I've raised. I'm really looking forward to seeing your points and your opinions. Keep safe, keep tanking, and I'll see you soon. Probably from above.